Yes, Mr. Shaskelson.
Thank you, Chair. I want very briefly just to touch on the second allegation of fraud against Mr. Spies, but very briefly. We traversed some of it yesterday, and I didn't understand you to persist in the allegation of fraud, but I do want to draw your attention to a letter that you yourself wrote, and it is at page 410 of Supplementary Bundle 2. .410. It's page 410. It is a memorandum addressed to all employees by, the heading says Ms. Linda Gxasheka. It's dated 16 August 2022, and it's about extended medical aid membership. And paragraph 1 says, this memo serves to confirm that employees who retire from council service in terms of the provisions of their respective approved pension or provident fund rules will be eligible for extended medical fund membership and an extended medical contribution benefit from the council. And then it's in paragraph A, it indicates who it covers, and A says retire on pension. Employees who've reached their retirement age as per their pension scheme rules and retire from the city's employment qualify to participate in the extended medical aid membership. Then in paragraph 2, it says the term retirement also includes early retirement as contained in the rules of the respective pension provident fund. So would you accept that Mr. Spies was entitled to take early retirement and claim the extended medical fund membership in terms of your own letter?
Thank you, Chair. If an employee takes early retirement, he's entitled to the benefit. Thank you.
I want to move to a separate issue altogether, and that's the charges against then Brigadier Mkhwanazi. And those charges are in the annexure bundle to your statement. That would be file 2 of 6. And it's annexure LLG 18 on page 90 of that file 2 of 6.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have them?
Yes.
Are you familiar with these charges?
Yes, I am.
And you'll agree with me that they are very serious charges.
I agree.
And if we look at charge 4 in particular, it seems to me that this is the most serious of the lot. Charge 4 reads, on or about the period 2021 and 2022, you directly stroke alternatively indirectly allowed third parties to impersonate police officers through the memorandum which was contained on the letterhead of the city of Ekurhuleni Metro Police, and furthermore allowed third parties to unlawfully use blue dash lights, knowing very well that the said third parties were not allowed to impersonate police officers by using blue dash lights. Will you agree with me that that is a particularly serious charge? Allowing people to impersonate police officers unlawfully.
Certainly.
And we now know with hindsight that the people who are alleged to have been allowed so to impersonate police officers are people under the control of someone who is currently standing trial for charges of attempted murder, kidnapping, and other serious offences. We know that. Will you accept that?
Can you repeat that, Truicho?
That the people who were allowed to impersonate police officers, people working for CAT security, were people who were working for someone, Cat Mklala, who is now facing charges of attempted murder, kidnapping, and the like.
I'm really battling through you, Chair. I'm really battling
Who?
here.
Well, let me break it up. Who is it alleged did Brigadier Mkhwanazi allow to impersonate police officers?
I don't know.
Surely, surely you do know. It is, well, to whom were these blue lights made available?
From what I've heard and seen in terms of the video clips, it was made to Mama Cats or something like that.
Have you consulted the investigation file in relation to these charges ever in the course of the last 3 years during which they've been pending or potentially pending?
Remember, I've instituted a forensic investigation, so I'm fully aware. I think initially I couldn't hear your question.
You've done a forensic investigation, but have you read the allegations that gave rise to these charges?
Yes, I have.
So you say it was Mama Cat who is alleged to have driven with blue lights. Who else is alleged to have driven with blue lights?
As you read, that they were furthermore allowed third parties to use or flash blue lights. I don't know who are those third parties.
You don't know?
No.
You don't know that they are allegedly people working for CAT security, that it is CAT security vehicles on which these blue lights were installed?
As I say, I don't know. I've never seen them. I don't even know how they look like. But from what you're saying, I agree that there were third parties that were allowed to use blue lights.
Are you saying here today that you're not aware of the fact that these allegations relate to the use of blue lights by CAT security?
No.
You're not aware that... How can that be?
I don't think we're getting each other here, Che. I think we're missing each other a lot this afternoon. I'm saying I'm aware of the charges and I'm aware of what transpired. But the question that says, do you know these people? I'm saying I don't know these people. That's all I'm saying.
So you're aware that the charges are
Yes.
that CAT security was allowed to use blue light vehicles that were registered through the EMPD?
Yes.
Yes.
Please don't nod, please speak. Are you saying
Yes,
yes?
yes, Chair.
Yes, all right.
And
That's
you're
what,
aware-
Mrs. Gxasheka, that's what the question was throughout.
Yes.
You're aware that Cat Security is a company controlled by Mr. Cat Matlala.
Yes.
And you're aware that Mr. Cat Matlala is currently facing charges of attempted murder, kidnapping, and the like.
I saw that on TV. I was shocked. Yes.
Sorry, you were shocked.
Yes.
What shocked you about it?
Everything that I saw on TV that was said about him, the attempted murder and all.
And it shocked you, did it shock you because you knew him and were surprised that these charges were being laid against him, or did it shock you for another reason?
Okay, can you ask one question at a time?
Well, why did it shock you?
That there was allegations against him of an attempted murder of a lady, former girlfriend.
Yes. Why did that shock you? Why did it come to you as a shock that Mr. Matlala was alleged to have attempted to kill his former girlfriend?
I think every attempted murder in terms of gender-based violence concerning to a woman, it will shock anybody. I'm not sure we'll be expected to have it normal.
So it's not specific, you don't have no personal knowledge of Mr. Matlala that caused the shock. It was just the nature of the alleged offence.
I've seen Mr. Matlala. I've met Mr. Matlala 2 or 3 times in my life. When I met Mr. Matlala, he raised a complaint of a woman who was pregnant and who was beaten up by the senior member of EMPD. And number 2, he raised other issues that through you, Chair, I will not be comfortable to discuss here. Hence, when I asked for what is this, a risk threat analysis, I was serious about. When he was complaining that Ekurhuleni were protecting these 2 senior members, who, as I said, the first one he sent a complaint of a woman who was beaten up while she was pregnant. And the second one, it was that we were about to appoint a city manager and there were favors that were done. When this was brought to me, I said, I don't have the complainants. I don't have details. He then said, I'm protecting those 2 people. And because I'm protecting those people, it's going to take us to a public protector. In one of my last conversations with Mr. Matlala, I said, I'm going to say it in Xhosa. I'm not sure how I'm going to translate in English because I said it in Xhosa. I said, if you've got issues, go and report them where they are relevant. When I saw him in December or January on TV, that's why I was shocked that a person who wanted to complain about another person, he can also do violence. And I told my husband, and I said, I've met this guy before. And what is shocking is that I said in my last conversation, so even some incidents that I have, maybe let me not get there, but I won't lie, I started panicking. That's the last time. And I'm going to reiterate because I can see I'm being associated with him there. I'm going to reiterate, I've never met his wife. I don't know them, 2 of them. All I know, I met him about 2 incidents. As I said yesterday, I don't think every incident of Ekurhuleni is going to be discussed here, because it's going to implicate, with due respect, you are in effect finding strategy and we're here to assist you. But I've said to Ekurhuleni before they suspended me in the OCMOL, have your own task team and deal with other issues that the Madlanga Commission will not able to. Thank you, Chair.
So to take a step back, we have charges that a company owned by Mr. Matlala is allowed to pass itself off as, or people employed by that company are allowed to pass themselves off as police officers because someone inside the EMPD has unlawfully given them access to blue light vehicles through the offices of EMPD. Those are the charges. Those charges are sufficiently substantiated that independent attorneys engaged by the city have said, there is a case here, let us proceed with disciplinary action against the man who created this situation, Brigadier Mkhwanazi. You agree?
Yes.
That took place in the first half of 2023, that charges were formulated and that the attorneys were ready to proceed. And we sit now 2.5 years later, and nothing appears to have been done about this case. Mr. Mkhwanazi still hasn't been called to his disciplinary commission, as far as I can work out. You're nodding.
I'm waiting for you to finish your response.
Okay. How do you explain that? You were in charge of HR over this period. How do you explain that?
I've explained yesterday, I'm not going to start on the usurping of powers. I'm going to focus on the LR procedural matters that count most here. I've taken the commission through the emails where the charge sheet never got to see the day of light. Subsequent to that, Mr. Ngeza never delivered the charge sheet, and it was very clear that games were being played. Communications happened, including where Chief of Police wrote himself and said, I'm withdrawing the charges of Mr. Mkhwanazi. In fact, he says, I'm withdrawing the investigation, I think something like that. And when you look how this was managed by Mr. Ngeza, even how Chief has spoken to it, if you go to the forensic report, it's very clear when he talks to the charge sheet how it went. It starts when there was a decision to institute a disciplinary hearing. When Chief has submitted that to Mr. Ngeza took almost a whole month just to appoint the attorneys. He took the whole month to even implement. He goes and says in his statement, I read that all of it yesterday, where he says, because IPD has confirmed that an arrest will happen, we had discussion and decide what is the point of me appointing attorneys if the people are going to be arrested. And he took that decision on his own. By the time he decided that he must appoint the attorneys in the 30th of May, the DC was already stopped. The suspension was uplifted. My role, I signed the upliftment. I did say that through an instruction, through an engagement. And in all our statement, Xolani Ngeza, Chief of Police, and mine, there's a collaboration that an instruction happened. The next area where I was involved, I explained all of this yesterday. It was on the issue of advising on the deployment. The question that remains is, why did the DC not take place? And that's why I instituted a forensic, that how clumsy can we be in having this DC concluded? The report of the forensic report came back, I think it was on the June 2024. And I said yesterday, when that report came back in June 2024, it was supposed to have gone to council. And in the midst of issues, there was an IPD report and then finally a legal opinion. Now I'm going to come back to the issue of usurping of powers. I've explained Section 64B, I've explained Section 64C. where everything ultimately lies with the accounting officer and ultimately lies with a chief of police. My role, if it was not enough commissioners, I'm sure there's room for improvement. But the latest I got myself involved on this matter, it was October, just before my suspension, where I still said, can I have the final file from Mr. Majang? Apologies. Mr. Majang, remember, is the one who served the charges. If we paid Mr. Majang and there was an instruction from an accounting officer to continue with this DC or where I could advise, it would have been if I had the file. I further said that in the forensic report, it spoke about limitations. So with the gaps, for me to go back to the accounting officer and say, look, we have to get this DC to go, it wouldn't have been easy without having all the information here. But most importantly, that the commission must remember, there was a legal opinion. Beyond that, it becomes difficult for me to take full responsibility. Lastly, the disciplinary process of Mr. Mkhwanazi, as far as I know, has commenced. My advice on that was, you don't even need to suspend this employee any further. Can we proceed with the DC? And that happens when there's a new city manager. As far as I know, as much as I'm not in the city, the DC, now that there's a new accounting officer, it's underway. And I'm one of the people who advise that I think there is an answer, a case to answer to. Let's fast track. You don't even need to suspend, but the DC must happen. And that subsequently was suspended. Thank you, Chair.
Let's take it step by step. The first issue, as I understand it, in relation to this DC, was back in 2023 when there was a failure to serve the charge sheet on Brigadier Mkhwanazi. You remember that?
Yes.
Now, we have conflicting versions. We have one version which says that that didn't happen because you had given instructions that he shouldn't accept it. You deny that. Have you taken action against anyone for failing to serve the charge sheet on Brigadier Mkhwanazi?
If you read the forensic report, by the time that recommendation was made in that year, Mr. Ngeza was no longer in the system. So it would have been very difficult to take an action against him.
But why did you have to wait for a forensic report on your version? It's quite clear that Mr. Ngeza had the responsibility to serve the charge sheet. As you say, all that required was an email because Brigadier Mkhwanazi was no longer suspended.
As I said earlier on, Chair, there's decisions that were made here. In that, there's an accounting officer who must account on these issues. There's the head of EMPD who must account on these issues. And at some point, some of the discussions were taking place without me. When I got to fully focus on this particular matter on its own, it's after the email, the anonymous email, where I said, can we get to the bottom of this and understand what happened? In between, majority of issues were discussed between a chief and the accounting officer. When chief said, I'm stopping this process, he then says to me, let's go and talk about it outside the institution. I said, I don't do talking outside the institution. It's your discussion with the accounting officer. I was not involved. The discussion took place between chief accounting officer and legal. I was not involved. And if they decided amongst three of them to stop the DC by allowing, saying the investigation is stopped, there was nothing I can do. Where I started having interest, it's when it got to public space and we realized that there were irregularities.
Gxasheka, what are the irregularities that you now realize there are?
As I said, Chair, firstly, we took long to deal with the matter. And my understanding, I think even when the chief of police wanted to meet with me, probably wanted to raise his frustrations. Because you can see that he signed this institution to discipline in April. You know, come in June, still nothing has happened. I think that's where his frustrations were. That's number one. And number two is when decisions are made, I'm not going to discipline or I'll discipline. I'm still making my mind. It's the second irregularity that we can improve from. And the third one is we appoint attorneys. After appointing attorneys, the process is stopped. It also becomes an irregularity, both on the procedure and also financial. And the last issue is, I think the legal opinion, we could have done much better on the legal opinion. And I think we've all learned from that.
I'm trying to understand your evidence and the chronology or sequence that you put. You became involved with this matter and you became aware that Chief Mapia has written a letter where he says the investigation is withdrawn or something to that effect. You became aware of that. So at which point do you recognize there are irregularities? That's why I'm asking you, what are the irregularities you're referring to? And at which, maybe let me add a second thing, at which point do you say you became aware of irregularities?
I became aware of all the irregularities after we've done the forensic, that indeed we could have managed this matter better.
Hold on about managing it better. When is that? That after when you say after the forensic report, when is that?
It was in June 2024, but Chair, maybe let me rephrase this. When I said let's have a forensic report done, surely we did something wrong. I agree that with the current charges that we have, you could not just say, I'm stopping the process. And understanding that the chief stopped the process based on frustrations, that's number one. Number two, there's also a legal opinion.
No, he didn't stop the That's not his evidence. Let's not restate his evidence incorrectly. His evidence is he stopped because he was instructed, not because of frustrations. He says, I was instructed to stop.
Yes, I'm correcting myself. In his letter, though, he did say, I, Chief Mapia, I'm stopping. But you correct in other evidence, he did say he was instructed.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm still interested in, or I still need to hear you. What are the frustrations, rather, what are the irregularities that you say you later picked up and then you ordered a forensic investigation?
Is how the whole process was conducted.
No, but you knew how it was conducted. You knew there's a letter from the chief which says I'm withdrawing the investigation. And the conversation that Mr. Chaskalson is having with you is, these are serious charges. You are head of HR. And then I tag on. You see a letter from the chief that says, I've stopped the investigation on these serious charges. You are head of HR. At that point, what do you do about it?
When I got to know about the stopping of the investigation, as I say, I started collating information after the anonymous letter from that says we favored the city manager and the CFO, they favored Julius. Then when I start collating information, as much as it wasn't enough, I've realized files were everywhere else except in HR. Then I realized there's a problem here. And hence then I instituted that a forensic must be embarked upon. Number two, in the meeting we had with this accounting officer, we also felt that let's change even the disciplinary procedure so that HR and legal to take full accountability. Remember, before that, I was not fully accountable. The main responsibility I had was more suspensions. Before and after that, other people are involved. In Mr. Ngqiza's statement, he also confirms that certain things were happening at an EMPD space without him being involved. However, there are decisions between Mr. Ngqiza and myself that we've made.
Let me stop you, Ms. Gxasheka. The matter is now with human resources. It's now with human. That's why Mr. Ngqiza is there. That's your department at that point. So the references to things were happening at EMPD don't quite work here because you've agreed to this disciplinary process, right? At the beginning, you agree to it, you agree to the suspension. You have one of your subordinates, and I think you say he was your direct subordinate, who is now providing the support to EMPD. You become aware that Chief Mapiyeye has written a letter which says the investigation is withdrawn or it is stopped, whatever that letter said. But you're aware this is about very serious charges. All five, not all six of them, not just charge 4. All 6 of them are very serious charges. You are a head of HR. You have your subordinate who reports to you who's dealing with this. You do nothing about it. You're happy to let it be. And I'm trying to understand that. You're the most senior person in HR. You're head of department. Employee relations falls under you. Discipline falls under you. And you do nothing about it. And then you say, I ordered a forensic investigation. That can be a proper answer for this. If it was because you were instructed not to do anything about it, it would be a different conversation with you. It's either that or you folded your hands and did nothing about it.
Thank you, Chair. I hope we'll find each other, Commissioner Baloyi. As I said that the minute this matter came to our attention, I'll try and be slow. After the anonymous email, we were all called to account. I think if you read my statement, you read Chief Mapiye's statement and Xolani, we're all called and say, answer, what happened? Roughly, things were explained. That is in August, if I'm not mistaken, around July, August. And immediately after that, the same day, if I'm not mistaken, to show how serious I was with this, I've changed the delegations based on the discussion we had with Dr. Mkhwanazi. After that, I instituted a forensic. The stopping of the investigation, Chair, I thought we discussed it yesterday, that it happened between Dr. Mkhwanazi, Advocate Kemi, and Chief Mapiyeye. I did speak to that I was not involved in those. When I started putting everything together, it's around August that what happened here, what happened there, what happened there. I don't know if I'm answering you.
No, for now, I'll leave it at that. You haven't answered. You haven't explained why you did nothing after you became aware that Chief Mapiyeye has written that letter. You did nothing. Fact is, you became aware of the letter and you did nothing. And then as you sit there, you say, later on, I picked up irregularities. The point I'm making to you is you did not need the city manager to say anything to you. Once you became aware of that letter, you as head of department, human resources, would and should have said, if you were executing your duties, you would and should have said, you cannot do that. You can't withdraw the investigation or the disciplinary hearing because these are very serious charges and we must proceed with them.
Chair, as I say, what happened, the discussion took place between Chief Mapiyeye, Advocate Kemi, and the city manager. They made that decision without HR. And subsequent to that, there was a legal opinion that says stopped. I even said, if I recall yesterday, even when they went to
you said there was a legal opinion that said stop.
That says we cannot discipline Mkhwanazi.
What legal opinion is that?
It was from legal to IPID.
No, that opinion doesn't say you can't discipline at all. We can pull it out if you want to. That opinion does not say to you, you can't discipline. It speaks to a different issue, that there is no fraud, it's not properly justified, and it requires IPIT to write back and explain themselves. It doesn't speak at all to, in fact, it doesn't say don't discipline.
Okay, let me rephrase then. What it was saying, that there's not enough evidence that for the city to conduct a disciplinary hearing.
No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't speak to discipline at all. It doesn't say there's not enough evidence to discipline. It says there's no fraud that has been committed. It says nothing about discipline. So you could not have been relying on it. The point I'm making is you could not have properly, if you relied on it at all, you could not have properly relied on that opinion, because that opinion doesn't speak to the disciplinary action.
Chair, I said I'm speaking to a holistic process here. Discussions took place and there was a decision not to discipline. I said the chief of police did speak about this. He said, let's go and discuss this thing outside the city. And I said, I'm not willing to do that. The discussions took place amongst three of them. And when Dr. Mkhwanazi has spoken, it is done. The only reason, remember, even when these discussions...
Is your explanation then, which is what I said earlier, you did not do anything because Dr. Mkhwanazi has spoken. If that is your answer, that is your answer. And that became the reason why you don't act. Is that what you're saying?
Chair, it's exactly what I'm saying, but there's something I need you to pick up, ma'am. There's something I need to pick you up, and I think you're missing it. Well, there's these discussions that they made. I continued to try and follow this thing because I always knew it's going to catch up with us. Despite, as I say, officially, there's instructions, but there's other ways of managing your boss. Hence, I still said, let's get the what you call this, forensic done. I said, Majang Inc., bring back the file. When ultimately we got the forensic report, yes, it didn't go to council because of the limitations. The minute we had a different accounting officer, I'm one of the people who said, let's continue and proceed with this. So what I wanted the commission to hear is, despite that this process was stopped, from my side as HR, I did not stop. Because the minute, for instance, you change the procedure and say, now, Mr. Ngeza, you're no longer responsible. I'm taking over. Today, I'll be here.
You say, why did you decide you're taking over?
Because there were a lot of things I couldn't account to because of the previous allegation. I mean,
it had nothing to do with Commissioner Mkhwanazi's case, right?
Because it had to do with that and more.
In your statement, I don't think you say that. I think you speak about there were many unresolved cases, and there was a lot of money that is being spent. And even the briefing of attorneys was an issue because the way they were briefing, work was not being distributed evenly. So it wasn't because of the Mkhwanazi case that you changed the delegation of powers. In fact, I think yesterday you said to us, this has always been an ongoing process within the city. So it's not correct to present it now as if that came about because you were concerned about the handling of the Mkhwanazi case.
Look at the dates. Sure. Look at the dates.
Yes.
The dates, remember, every time you are called by your boss, accounting officer, you don't seem to know anything. You can't fully account. I said that yesterday. When the Bikul matter came, the same day, if it's not the following day, which those delegations were changed. Because I'm told you know nothing about these matters. You're not following these matters the way you should.
Let me read you something from your statement. Mr. Mr. Gxasheka, at paragraph 36, you say, on or about July 2023, after numerous concerns raised by the accounting
Apologies,
office,
Chair.
para 36 at page 12, your statement. In fact, I'm reading the old statement. Let's look at where this may be in your new statement. It's a different paragraph. I'm told it's 72 in your new statement. Yes. At 71, that's where I wanted to read for you. Are you there? Are you there, Mr. Gxasheka?
Yes.
Yes. So this is your explanation for this change. You say, on or about July 23, after numerous concerns raised by the accounting officer and HOD Kemi Behari, I revised the financial delegation due to increased labor cases that result in excessive, exorbitant labor costs, meaning that the expenditure on labor costs was increasing in an uncontrollable manner and the budget was allocated at legal risk, catering for all COE legal costs. And then at 72, you say, in August 23, the accounting officer raised issues relating to how labor relations cases are handled, especially MPD cases, including the case of Brigadier Mkhwanazi, as it was now raised via an anonymous person or email. This is the big email. So there's no account in your own statement of you acting before this date, before you got to the big email. You don't account for steps that you say you took to ensure that the disciplinary hearing doesn't die.
I think we're missing each other, but we're saying the same thing. I said I started consolidating issues when that big matter came.
Yes, my point exactly, that when you became aware of Chief Mapia's letter, you did nothing. And the next steps you took was when now the story of the failure to discipline Commissioner Mkhwanazi now became public. And you got this inquiry that was written to Jeff Weeks, the big message. That's what got you to start acting.
A chief didn't share the letter. As I said, when I started to say the engagement on the stopping of the process, it happened between three of them. And
so you never became aware of it before you got this big inquiry.
That's what I'm trying to say to the panel, that to the commission, I got to consolidate and got to know everything, Chair, after the big matter. Then when I'm following up these things, I'm realizing, but we could have done things better. And if you hear me properly, I'm saying, even when we change the disciplinary procedure, I realize it cannot end there. We will account for this at some point. Hence, beyond decisions that were made by the three of them, I still pursue this matter. In 2024, before even the Madlanga Commission inquiry, I was still talking to the attorney, asking for files. The latest, it was in October 2023. I really appeal that can my side of the story be heard. They've stopped the process. I did not stop the process. Yes, we could have done things faster and not be here. But at least I need that to be heard while everybody else stopped. I alone, HODHR, I didn't stop. Thank you, Chair.
Where do we see that in your annexures, that after Chief Mapia's letter, you carried on before the big whistleblowing, I call it whistleblowing loosely, between the letter and when now you're called to account, because now it's gone public that nothing is being done, where do we see that you actually took steps? I haven't seen it in your annexures, and I don't see it in your statement either.
I think what I'm saying, Chair, I've got to be aware of this whole matter after the big matter.
Right,
I
thank
really
you.
need you to record that. I got to be aware and I consolidated all these issues and I've never stopped. Hence, I'm here today to still talk to this issue. When they had those conversations to stop this matter, I was not party to. But the minute I got to be party to, I still proceeded and say how best we can close this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaskalson.
I want to just, if you can indulge it for a few minutes, Mr. Chaskalson. Mrs. Gxasheka, the forensic investigation you are referring to, the one where you got a report dated June 2024, that report was investigating 3 allegations. 1, whether Julius Mkhwanazi had been defamed. 2, whether the person using the pseudonym Biki breached POPIA. 3, whether Ngqiza, by appointing Majang as the city's legal representatives, acted without Mkhwanazi's written consent and therefore breached Mkhwanazi's rights. Now, those are the 3 allegations this so-called forensic investigation investigated. And they reached their conclusions. You can find it in Mapiyeye annexures on page 114. So when you say you took steps by instituting a forensic investigation to determine why the charges were not proceeded with, that is not correct. Because all this forensic investigation does is to go after the whistleblower, Biki. Those are the 3 allegations that are investigated. I don't know if you are in the Mapiyeye file, the annexures, or if you know where the forensic report is in your annexures.
I've got to use mine. It's just that I don't know the pages on it. Okay. Let's see.
Are you there, Mrs. Smith? Page 114, Mapiyeye annexures. Sorry, in Ribo's piece, my apologies, my fault. 183.
You can look at 183.
For Mapiyeye,
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Okay, you can, if you may repeat your question, Chair. Thank you.
All right, so
your
that
comment?
is the forensic investigation. If you look at 223, the allegations they were investigating and the conclusions. Are you on 223?
223.
223.
Yes.
Look at allegation 1, apropos allegation 1, criminal defamation. So they wanted to know whether Julius Mkhwanazi has been defamed or whether somebody in the city has been defamed. And then if you go to just before 13.6, allegation 2, whether the person using the pseudonym Biki has breached section 11 of POPIA by, again, disclosing information relating to Mkhwanazi. And you go to the next page, 224, allegation 3, whether Ngqiza, by appointing Majang as the city's legal representative in the Mkhwanazi matter, acted without obtaining Mkhwanazi's written consent and whether by doing so they have breached the collective agreement. Now, those are the three allegations these forensic investigators were asked to investigate. And they reach conclusions, and that's the sum total of it. Even when you read the front page of the investigation report on page 123, it tells you that it is a forensic investigation into allegations of defamation, breaches of protection of personal information, and appointment and payments to Majang Incorporated. So you can use this as an answer to Commissioner Baloy's question of what did you do when you became aware that the city did not continue with the serious allegations against Julius Mkhwanazi. You can't say, I instituted this investigation, because this investigation has nothing to do with why the city did not continue. This investigation is investigating three allegations. It is going after the whistleblowers who said what they said in the Biki email. And it says so.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to say that the report, I would prefer if it's written and understood in its entirety. And also beyond the report, my work that I continue to do on this matter, including where we strive to meet with Majang, and I wrote to them that give us the files. There were so many things that were discovered, and even on the recommendations, if you go to the recommendations, I think there's about, so many recommendations.
Mrs. Gxasheka, you're not going to answer my question because you are avoiding it. Let's just go to the report itself so that I can assist you. They tell us how this came about. Go to page 200, the introduction, on page 20, paragraph 7.6. I don't want you to read us this report. We have read it already. We know what it says. Now they tell us how the investigation came about in paragraph 7.6. They say, a memorandum dated 21 August 2023 from you outlined concerns relating to defamatory statements by Biki in his or her email to Wix, as well as possible violation of the Protection of Personal Information Act by you, and requested that the city conduct an investigation and focus on those issues. Who are the recipients of the charge sheet? Who printed the charges? Who is Biki? Contravention of POPIA, labor cases and how they are attended by ER, escalated labor costs. In a letter dated 23 August from Mashazi to Hleza, Mashazi requested that the investigation be instituted into concerns raised by Gxasheka. 5 September 2023, forensic investigation. Nowhere does it say why was the disciplinary proceedings against Julius Mkhwanazi stopped. That's not what they were asked to investigate. And they say so that your memorandum dated 21 August 2023 was more concerned about defamation, breach of POPIA, and the appointment of the attorneys.
And Chair, if I may add, I think let's focus, it's quite a wide scope. Let's also focus on 7.6.5, where it says labor relations, grievances and labor dispute in the Ekurhuleni Metropolis and how they are attended by ER division. Now, let's understand workplace dynamics. Let's understand complexity of the matters. With the discussions that have happened, wherever they were happening, and stopping of this matter, if I were to say to the accounting officer and everybody else, we are just investigating the Julius matter, it wouldn't have worked. The way I've written here, I've said labor relations cases, grievances and labor disputes in the EMPD and how we're attending it as ER division. And to me, I've said yesterday, while this matter, I'm not undermining it, it's very serious. there are other matters as well that we need to look at. And I'm saying today as well that beyond even this issue and the decisions that were made, I felt that let's investigate these matters of EMPD.
Mrs. Gxasheka, can I stop you there? I want you to accept that nowhere in the mandate given to the attorneys do you say, investigate why the charges against Julius Mkhwanazi were not proceeded with. Can you just accept that nowhere in this mandate do you deal specifically with why charges against Mkhwanazi were not proceeded with?
Chair, if they need to be specific on a particular stance that says specifically why Julius Mkhwanazi's investigation was stopped by Chief Mapieye, Dr. Mashazi, and Advocate Kemi, it's understandable. But to me, I was looking at that matter specifically and other matters. I will check the engagement later. I will try while we're busy and try and find it. Maybe in the engagement letter, it might also have the specific. I think there is where we speak about Julius, specifically the Julius Mkhwanazi's matter.
I want
Okay,
to
let me
focus on
help you.
just where they say you told them here, it's not there. And then you'll be helped about the other letters because I want to leave this page.
Okay.
In this letter, it doesn't say that. In this letter, it talks about cases within Ekurhuleni and EMPD in general in this letter, especially in 7.6.5.
Chair, I've been following how things are going. I agree, Chair, that it won't say specifically why did you stop a DC of Mkhwanazi. And you know why it wouldn't say that? Because the ultimate decision makers, executive authority, has made a decision. And I've said yesterday, when you'll have discussions and debates sometimes, especially with the accounting officer, legally she already have answers. In my situation,
Mrs. Gxasheka, we're talking about this document on this page. We're not talking about decisions of Dr. Mashazi. I'm limiting my question now, having accepted your answer, because you said 7.6.5 says that. We went to 7.6.5. I'm putting to you that 7.6.5 refers to labor relations cases in Ekurhuleni Metro in general. That's what it says, and we can leave it at that.
Chair, I know I'm going to be punished for this, Chair. I'm begging for the last time, Chair.
Sorry, Mrs. Gxasheka. Bear in mind that Commissioner Khumalo is asking you these questions.
Yes.
Because of a response you gave answering a question by Commissioner Baloyi. You said that you instituted an inquiry suggesting that that inquiry was instituted in connection with the Mkhwanazi disciplinary process. So Commissioner Khumalo is seeking to demonstrate to you that this inquiry had nothing to do with that. That's the context. Do you now wish to respond to the last question?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm going to try my last time and I'll give up. And I will take inferences that are made. When you read this report in its entirety, for instance, I'm going to take you, majority of the time the report talks about Mr. Mkhwanazi, even 13.83. For instance, it refers to Mkhwanazi's matter subsequently being withdrawn. It goes further and says recommendations that were made by Mapieye and. Even on the recommendations themselves, Chair, on page 26, if you check this matter, it talks about Mr. Mkhwanazi and what we could have been done better, including where we should seek a legal opinion. When it disturbed this thing, and it disturbed myself, for instance, where I was like, okay, this investigation report, it's raising other things. 14.4 of the recommendation also talk where it says Mr. Mkhwanazi must lodge a complaint against EMPD senior officials. All I'm trying to say, as much as the scope was generic, but ultimately the scope was about the matter of Mr. Mkhwanazi. And as I say, 13.83, it also assists. There are others that are assisting on this matter. It might not specifically say, why did you stop the DC? However, it does talk to that it was withdrawn. Hence, I've said yesterday, and I'm done, Chair, I'll accede if I have to. I said yesterday, if this report went to council and it was deliberated, the same way it's deliberated here, I assure you would maybe not even been here. And I think I've given the best I could. All I want to leave you with, I didn't make a decision to stop the DC. Yes, my scope could have been much better. But how do you say, Chair, investigate your own accounting officer?
Well, I think, Ms. Gxasheka, it's to try and make sure that what you say is factually what happened. You have said to us, you ordered a forensic investigation once you picked up irregularities, and you say it to show that you continued to do something to get this matter, to get to a disciplinary process, because that's what this engagement is about. The accusation is you had a role in Mr. Mkhwanazi not being disciplined. Now, what Commissioner Khumalo is doing is to show you that, but this forensic investigation that you requested, you tell us you requested, doesn't support you saying that it was part of you pursuing the disciplinary steps against Brigadier Mkhwanazi. You are correct that this report had something to do with the conduct of Mkhwanazi. That's what the big email is about. So that way you are correct. But what I wanted to do was to read you paragraph 8.3. Now, if you look at page 202, allegations, it states what you have said should be investigated or what should be investigated. It's defamatory statements, 8.1, as Commissioner Khumalo says. It's 8.2 is about leaking of confidential information, and 8.3 is the important one. This is where, for the first time, there's mention of Commissioner Mkhwanazi, but this is what he said, and I want to read that paragraph for you. It says, irregularities, weaknesses exist within the EMPD-ER division relating to management of certain labor relations cases with specific reference to the Mkhwanazi disciplinary matter, which resulted in the matter, this is the complaint, which resulted in the matter being unnecessarily referred to external legal service providers. That's the one complaint, right, that you're asking to be investigated. And or the city incurring escalated/wasteful legal costs, which constitutes a breach of applicable legislative prescripts and or applicable policies, processes, and procedures of the city, and or fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So this has nothing to do with an instruction to find out why Julius Mkhwanazi has not been disciplined. In fact, you're investigating Nisa's conduct here about expenditure and the briefing of the attorney. So this report doesn't support you. Or what you ask them to do has nothing to do with you seeking to ensure that Commissioner Mkhwanazi is disciplined, not from this report.
In fact, Chair, I was looking for that area where it says specifically to reference to Mr. Mkhwanazi disciplinary matter. And I would like to concede that the way the matter will be understood from the other side and how I understand it, it will be different. And I want to say to the Commission, also look on the complexity of the matters.
What complexity are you referring to?
I'm saying you are an HOD HR, you must write specifically and say you are looking at investigating senior management who made a decision to stop a disciplinary process, and you put it that way, it would not be as simple as that. And when you go to our contracts, you even have a clause on termination that says if you don't follow an instruction, that's a misconduct. I'm going to accept, Chair, that it might read differently, but when I said specifically on the disciplinary matter of Mr. Mkhwanazi, the outcome could have been anyway. And one thing I want to leave the commission with as well. This investigation is sent to an internal audit, an independent, separate department. They appoint an independent law firm that could have came at a different outcome of any outcome they want. It was an independent process. I wouldn't want to say it was investigating Mr. Gxasheka. It was investigating the process of Mr. Mkhwanazi. Where we differ in terms of the interpretation, I will take that, Chair, for the sake of progress. Thank you so much.
For progress, I will not engage much on it, but I'll just make the point that there's nothing about interpretation here. Although you do mention the disciplinary process of Brigadier Mkhwanazi, you are saying in so many ways that what you want investigated is why this matter, the Brigadier Mkhwanazi matter, was referred to external entities. That's what we are saying. And when you talk about interpretation, I think you are suggesting that perhaps from where we are sitting, we are misunderstanding what you are saying. And if you are suggesting that you see that differently, I'm surprised because it says exactly what I've just said now.
Chair, if we can go to page 205, for instance, hence I'm saying I'm sitting here, I've got my own, I'm contemplating things differently. In 205, clause 10.5.1, in fact, 10.5.
Is that the report now?
Yes, Chair, I just want to try for the last time so that...
You see, earlier, in response to Commissioner Khumalo, you trying to support your point, you referred to the fact that the report refers to Brigadier Khumalo, I'm very sorry, to Brigadier Mkhwanazi a number of times. Obviously, if in your mandate you have referred to Brigadier Mkhwanazi, the report will refer to Brigadier Mkhwanazi.
Yes.
That's only natural.
Yes.
And on my reading of what you referred to, that is exactly the context. So your point to me does not make sense. But anyway, let's hear what you want to refer to.
Objective, establish the processes are followed in the management of employee relations at the EMPD and ER division. Obtain and review the SOP with regards to how labor relations cases are managed. Interview the relevant officials from EMPD and ER division to establish the processes followed in respect of labor relations matters. Which officials are responsible, conduct interviews to determine above documents and annexure. I'm going to leave it, Chair, because I don't think we're finding each other. I think we're not winning on the complexity of my position.
I also wanted to say, reading the report itself, I don't see how that will assist you, because what's important is the mandate that you gave, and the mandate is right at the beginning. And we don't see how the mandate supports what you said in response to Commissioner Baloyi. So going to whatever the report says, I don't quite see how that becomes helpful. But anyway, you said you were stepping off the subject, and we've dealt with it for quite some time now. I think you are correct that we should step off it. Mr. Shaskalson?
Thank you, Chair. I want to just clarify a few things in the chronology and your role and where you say decisions were taken over your head. the key moment, it seems to me, where things go horribly wrong is that on the 21st of June, there is a letter from Chief Mappier addressed to yourself, to Advocate Behari, and to Lieutenant Colonel Erasmus. And it essentially says, we have to serve the charge sheet by tomorrow, the 22nd of June. It's at page 180 of the Mappier bundle. We discussed it yesterday. It says, we have to serve the charge sheet by tomorrow. Please serve the charge sheet. Tomorrow is the last day. Now that's addressed to you and it's addressed to Advocate Behari. I understand your evidence to be that sometime between the sending of this letter and the following day, the 22nd, a decision was taken at a meeting of Advocate Behari, well, not at a meeting, by three people, Advocate Behari, Chief Mappier, and the accounting officer, that this prosecution was not going to proceed. Now, is that what your evidence is? That either later on the 21st or on the 22nd, those three officials took the decision, we are not going to prosecute Brigadier Mkhwanazi?
Yes, I did say yesterday it's my evidence. I even said when you check, when you look at the chief of police, I think Rivers Peace and Kolaneza, there's where it says as well that I think Kolaneza is saying the chief called him and said, Dr. Mashazi, chief of police and advocate Kemi met, and that decision was made. So I'm sticking by that.
But you had a letter. You had a letter on the 21st that said, tomorrow's the last day. Please serve this charge sheet. Tomorrow is the last day. What did you do in response to that letter?
I said yesterday, I don't recall receiving that letter. I said, I don't recall. I've seen somebody signed for it, but that didn't look like my signature. I think it's indicted, but it doesn't look like my signature.
It looks like someone called Engelbrecht. Does that...
Engelbrecht.
Mr. Chaskalson, Mr. Behari said that was someone in his office, Engelbrecht.
Take that back. At any rate, when was it communicated to you that the decision had been taken by the accounting officer and by Chief Mappier not to proceed with this disciplinary process?
I've said earlier on where I got to know issues of certain events that happened in this particular case. It was after August 2023 when I started collating information myself.
So are you saying that up until August, you didn't know that the accounting officer had said this prosecution must stop?
Yes.
So what did you do between June and August when, as far as you were concerned, there were very serious charges that needed to be brought against Brigadier Mkhwanazi that an external law firm had drawn up at some cost to the city, and that were waiting for someone to serve a charge sheet on Brigadier Mkhwanazi?
I think already we debated this with the commissioners, and it was clear that my report didn't do anything between whenever this happened up to when I instituted the investigation in August.
So you took no steps to push the matter forward between June and August?
Ekurhuleni has got many cases. I might not have taken step on this matter because firstly, as I said earlier on, the delegations at the time, they were between EMPD and Mr. Ngqiza. The only time I revised delegations, it was after August 2020, around August 2023. Yes, steps could have been taken, but some of the issues I missed. They happened outside my space. So nothing I would have done about it.
I just need clarity in that regard because it seems to me that the job of serving the charge sheet was always a job of your department. Simply serving a charge sheet to start proceedings was your department's job.
We've discussed this yesterday, where in the evidence, in the form of emails, I've said that I've realized there were irregularities. The charge sheet was provided to Mr. Ngqiza as early as 15th June 2024. And after that has happened, they were back and forth. Ultimately, the charge sheet was never, ever submitted to Mr. Mkhwanazi. And I've said yesterday, I'm really trying to be slow. I'm normally a person who talks fast, and I'm realizing it's not doing justice for me. I've said yesterday, the first email from Majang Inc. said save via an email followed by physical saving. Mr. Mkhwanazi was in the system. The emails of Mr. Mkhwanazi were working. It could have been served. Even when you make amendments, you still make amendments, you make them up to a disciplinary process as you go, as long as it hasn't been concluded. That process, indeed, it was irregular, and it's an area of improvement. And we will improve on it. And that irregular, again, it needs to be understood that it could have been an influenced irregularity. I've already spoken about Dr. Mkhwanazi. One thing I picked up when I was analyzing this, I couldn't understand that between the chief of police and Xolani Ngqiza, what could have transpired. Because in Mr. Ngqiza's statement, he says, on the day of upliftment of the suspension, he had a conversation with Mr. Julius Mkhwanazi downstairs in my office. So all these things that happened, influenced from executive authority down to my division, it's things that we learn from. But it's difficult to say the serving of charge sheet, I would have dealt with it without changing the delegations, number one. But most importantly, if decisions are made by the accounting officer, especially on my contract, I don't know of Mr. Ngqiza, but in my contract it's very clear on termination that you don't follow an instruction, there will be misconduct. But I've never said the charge sheet must not be served. I'm really trying to be slow. I've never said let's not serve the charge sheet.
You've repeated quite a number of times that we don't understand the complexity of your position. You've repeated since yesterday that if you don't follow instructions, it has consequences from your superior. Were you instructed by Dr. Mkhwanazi not to institute or to proceed with disciplinary hearing, a disciplinary process against Commissioner Mkhwanazi?
Chair, I want you to understand this. The instruction, it did not happen with HR. It happened with Dr. Mkhwanazi, Advocate Kemi, and Chief Martin.
No, Ms. Gxasheka, we don't have endless time. I'm asking you a straightforward question. Don't repeat what you've been telling us. You've been repeating since yesterday that Dr. Mkhwanazi Chief Mapieye and Mr. Behari, they met and they agreed that they're not going to proceed with the disciplinary. So please don't repeat that. I've asked you a direct question, and I started off by explaining the basis on which I'm asking my question. Since yesterday, including a few seconds ago, you keep saying, if you don't follow instructions of your superior, I think you said you can even be terminated. You said something like that. And all the time you're referring to instructions from your superior, Dr. Mkhwanazi, hence my question. And my question is simply this. Did you get an instruction, based on what you're saying, did you get an instruction from Dr. Mkhwanazi not to institute or continue with disciplinary action against Commissioner Mkhwanazi? It's either a yes or no answer.
Chair, on the engagement of, I think, 22nd August, after the big matter, because I think the question was different initially, that between the charge and whenever, why I didn't do anything.
Now I'm asking you a different question, Ms. Gxasheka, please. Now I'm asking you a direct question. Did you or did you not get instructions from Dr. Mkhwanazi not to discipline Commissioner Mkhwanazi?
On the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken, of August, when we were called into a meeting, Chair, in the discussions that were taking place there, it became clear what was the appetite on this matter. Hence, when there was an instruction that let's change the disciplinary procedure. And I take full accountability. No more Xolani Ngceza taking accountability. I then took a forensic investigation process to find a way of protecting me without exposing myself.
Let me stop you there. You say in the meeting you've still not answered my question, but let me work with what you've said now. You say in that meeting it was clear what was the appetite. What was the appetite? According to you, as you saw it in this meeting, what did you see to be the appetite about this disciplinary process?
I would want to attest to what the Chief of Police has said, that it started to look that certain people are targeting Mr. Mkhwanazi.
What was the appetite, Mr. Gxasheka? You were in the meeting. You formed a view there's a particular appetite, whatever you mean by that, about this matter. What was the appetite?
The appetite is the same as the legal opinion.
No.
Can I finish, Commissioner?
No, Mr. Gxasheka. Don't do that. I'm asking you a question that is, it's a second question that I'm asking you that you're not answering. All to do with the instruction from Dr. Mkhwanazi. That's what I'm asking you. You've now introduced the appetite. It became clear. That's your language, right? And you say that when you should have answered my question about whether or not you got an instruction, you choose to speak of an appetite. Now I'm asking you, what was the appetite that you descend out of that meeting to do with disciplining Commissioner Mkhwanazi?
Thank you, Commissioner. I am praying that Commissioner Baloyi is going to allow me to finish. One of the discussions or of the meetings, one of the key points in that meeting was there was a discussion that took place, and there was an agreement that this whole thing is going to be stopped. I won't have the exact words. This whole issue of Mr. Mkhwanazi is going to be stopped. Why is it still pursuing? And I got shocked because, as I say, majority of the times I'm not involved in these things. And I've been pressed, I've said that even on labor relations, cost management, it's been the issues I've been dealing with. You are not managing, I've said this yesterday, that Linda, you're not managing your department. Things are happening beyond you. Discussions have taken place, we're going to stop this matter. When I'm talking about the complexity, and I'm going to end here.
Just before you go to the complexity, so the appetite was not to pursue the disciplinary process. That's what the appetite was. Please, yes or no?
Yes, Chair,
Yes,
it's
let's stop
confirming
there.
the
Can
20...
we stop there? Can we stop there? You
20
said
June
yes.
later,
That's
okay.
what the appetite was. And was this the appetite of Dr. Mkhwanazi?
That's what I'm saying. She was chairing the meeting.
It could have been the appetite of anybody who was in attendance. Was this the appetite of Dr. Mkhwanazi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, you never got an instruction. I think we all understand what you mean or it means when someone says, I got an instruction. Just like you got an instruction that you told us earlier yesterday, that you got an instruction about the suspension, for example. So should I take it from your answer, or should we take it from your response to my direct question? And you now speaking about an appetite in a meeting, that it means you never got an instruction from Dr. Mkhwanazi not to discipline Dr. Mkhwanazi, Commissioner Mkhwanazi. Whether in writing, whether in writing, whether in a meeting, Dr. Mkhwanazi never instructed you not to discipline Commissioner Mkhwanazi.
I'm going to respond to it, Chair, but can it just not end to a yes or a no? I need to give a context.
Yeah, I'm hoping that at the end of it, you will have a yes or no, so you can give the context.
Thank you so much. The discussion says, I had a discussion with the other colleagues. We agreed this matter must stop. Why is ER continuing? You are not taking ownership of your department, Linda. We have agreed we must stop this matter. And why is it still continuing? Why it hasn't stopped? You cannot control your people in your division. It might not have directly said you stop, but it's asking me why you haven't stopped. If it doesn't stop, you're going to account. So I don't know if that means an instruction, but it's a very clear tone that says if you don't stop, you're going to account. You are also not managing. The labor relation costs are increasing. The labor cases are increasing.
Yes.
You must stop.
You see, it would be bad if we were to say in our report, Dr. Mkhwanazi instructed Ms. Gxasheka not to discipline Commissioner Mkhwanazi, if in fact that's not what you say to us. That's why it's important to understand what are you saying. But I think you've answered as best as you can, or as best as you are prepared to answer, and I'm happy to leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as I say, it was maybe it is an instruction. It was an instruction, let me not say that. But the way it was said, it wasn't just say, stop this disciplinary hearing. It says, why are you not controlling your department? Why is this matter still continuing? Whereas I've stopped it. You're not managing your department. Hence, I'm saying it becomes complex. It wasn't just, it says stop this hearing, but also manage your department. So I wanted to give that context that there was clear that you must stop this hearing.
Mrs. Gxasheka, as observed by Commissioner Baloyi, from yesterday to today, you have repeatedly said that the instructions of Dr. Mkhwanazi or the accounting officer must be complied with. Can that be said appropriately by an HR practitioner, especially one at the highest level like you?
Chair, let me also remind you what I said yesterday. When discussions are taking place and instructions are made, we deliberate. And I've said yesterday, majority of the time, I find that she already has a legal position. I'm not sure where she gets to be capacitated. We debate on issues. Ultimately, once I could see that she has her point and it's taken, you can't move. I'm going to make a sensitive example just to give another context. When the matter of a chief came, for instance, saying, let's settle it. I still went. And I said, from the humanitarian point of view, he's left with less than a year. I spoke to the lady who was involved in the matter. She agreed. I go to Dr. Mkhwanazi and I said, let's tackle this matter. She agrees. 30 minutes, 40 minutes later, I'm called again. We are not settling because she now has a different view from the legal side of things. I think that's the complexity I'm trying to explain, that from HR side of things, we'll do things in a particular manner. I will advise in a particular manner. And I've said yesterday consistently that there's HR who will advise. After HR, there's legal. And ultimately, once legal has made a decision for that institution, it's binding and it's got its own risk, and one person can account, it's legal, and the accounting officer. And I'm appealing to the commission that you hear where I'm coming from. I do advise. I think if you haven't seen my character today, I don't know. I'm a person who will be persistent, who will be advising. But ultimately, when a person has made a decision and is your boss, there's legal you can do. An example that would have happened, maybe it would have been better than coming here. Let's say my report says, investigate why the DC of Mr. Mkhwanazi has not happened, but we had a meeting. I won't be here. Maybe it would have been a blessing. I can guarantee you, she would have instituted a DC on me. Maybe it would have been better than coming here.
I'm beyond the stage of you giving advice. I'm at the stage of an instruction. Let's assume that this is after the advice that you keep referring to. Then there is an instruction. What you say is, once an instruction, I will refer you in a different context, but it still makes the same point. Different in the sense that it's not in the context of what Commissioner Baloyi was engaging you on. I'll take you to page 22 of your latest statement, paragraph 65, fourth line. There you say, when instructions are given, I will say by, you say at, I'll say by, given by the accounting officer, one has to comply. So my question is a simple one, and I hope you will give a very brief answer. My question is, can something like this be appropriately said by an HR practitioner, especially one at the highest level like you? Can you say that? Once the accounting officer gives an instruction, I just must comply. Can you say that? As a senior HR practitioner.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've given a context. I think when you write the statement, you won't necessarily put everything with the hope that other things will come and talk to it. I will rephrase my statement, Chair. What I was trying to say is when a reasonable instruction is provided, you must comply. I would like to revise that. And number two, Chair, if we're to talk about the character of Dr. Mkhwanazi, I would like you to even, for instance, call the highest authority here. Call the executive.
I'm not sure that we want to go there. You just said what you meant to say, and you are now seeking to revise, is that what must be complied with is a reasonable instruction. I think that's enough.
Yes, the reasonable instruction. But Chair, I wanted to say where we didn't do right, the character as well, you might need to call one of the senior people who are beyond here to come and speak about the character itself and the complexity I was talking about. Thank you, Chair.
But I will not let you avoid this that easily. How you phrased it appears to have been quite conscious and deliberate. You see, it actually does make reference to reasonable. It's not as if you did not think about reasonable. Let me read the full thing. I stopped midway. You say, when instructions are given by the accounting officer, one has to comply, comma. That's a standalone clause in that entire statement, and it's full and complete in and of itself. And it suggests that you are saying, in fact, it's not even suggesting, it is actually saying that you just must comply under any circumstances, reasonable or unreasonable. Do you agree that that is what that means? Before this idea of you wanting to change this comes in, do you accept that that's the meaning of this up to the comma, comply, comma?
Chair, I've requested that my statement be amended, Chair, to talk to reasonable. As you say, HR person.
Yeah, I've said I'm going to take you up. In fact, I'm going to engage you quite seriously on that you cannot easily seek to change the statement in accordance with what you are saying now. And for now, I just want you to agree that that part up to comply, comma, means exactly what I've said to you. Do you agree, yes or no?
Chair, you said I've intentionally wrote it that
I'm
way.
coming to that.
Okay.
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
Do you agree with what I've just said now? Up to comply, comma. Do you agree
Yes.
that it means what I've said? You
It
agree?
means what, Chair?
What I have said to you, I have said, when you say, when instructions are given by the accounting officer, one has to comply. So I say to you, I read that to mean you just must comply whether the instruction is reasonable or not reasonable. At this stage, you are not where you want to change that to bring in the idea of reasonableness. But do you agree that as it stands, it means you just must comply whether reasonable or unreasonable? That's my question now.
Chair, I've requested that the
Yes, I
statement-
get your request to change and bring in reasonable, but do you agree that
No,
it
I
means...
don't agree, Chair.
What does it mean?
Chair, I'm saying there's an error that happened, and I want to take full responsibility of the error.
Before the error and wanting to change, do you agree that it means what I've just put to you?
The way it's written.
Yes,
currently.
the way it's written.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, thank you. Now, my point is, you said what you said here consciously and deliberately because it's not as if the idea of reasonableness was lost to you. You actually do refer to quote unquote reasonable in this same sentence. You say after the comma, especially if they seem reasonable. So it's not as if you did not think of reasonableness. So first part, you say you must comply under whatever circumstances. But then you make the emphasis that, but you must especially do so if the instruction is reasonable. But you're basically saying otherwise, once an instruction comes from the accounting officer, you comply.
Chair, I don't agree with that, Chair. I think, hence I said earlier on, is the interpretation. And I don't like the statement that I'm going to use. I've seen people using it, and it's probably going to be the first time I use it.
Yes.
I think in the law space, you will probably have to do communications and English as part of your curriculum. In other areas, Chair, we really struggle with English. And what we're learning from this commission and other places, we learn every day, Chair, that we need to continuously improve on business English or language, on legal language. And I'm glad, Chair, that you do mention it, that after the comma, you do talk about reasonable. And I've learned from that. I had an example where we had a legal opinion on the appointment of the GCFO Ekorulin. When we met with the lawyers in a particular prescriptive clause that was written, they taught us that where a comma, just putting a comma, it means it changes the whole definition. Where there's a full stop and then there's a continuity, it changes the whole definition. Hence, I'm going to say, Chair, we learn every day. But I'm glad you raised it, that I did put reasonable. It could have been the way it was said. And as an HR practitioner, I can do better. I'm not undermining my English, but as I say, legally, in terms of how we write, we can learn from that. But I'm glad you mentioned it, Chair, that there is reasonable. And hence I said yesterday, I do debate with the accounting officer. But majority of the time, you realize that they tend to incline on the legal opinion than an HR opinion. In majority of issues I would have advised, we agree, the following day you are told, no, because legal has spoken. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, I thought it was my English that you were suggesting is lacking. So towards the end, I see that you are saying it is yours. I wanted to also, when I said you deliberately and consciously said what you say in paragraph 65, you actually do say the same thing, exactly the same thing in paragraph 30. So there as well, we are basically saying, once an instruction comes from the accounting officer, you just must comply. Reasonable or not reasonable. Is it paragraph 30? I hope it is. Sorry. Yes.
Chair, paragraph 30 reads, based on the instruction of the accounting officer, my advice and guidance would have been based on that. If the charge sheet is ready to be served and the investigation concludes, there is no need to redeploy the employee to any other position. If you remember, I said yesterday, when we started with this conversation, she spoke about
Sorry, Ms. Gxasheka, you're reading 30 from your old statement.
Oh, sorry.
So maybe let's find it in there, because we've been working off the new statement. Let's find it there. Paragraph 65? 65.
Oh, 65.
Yeah.
Based on the instructions of the accounting officer, my letter sought to advise and guide where, based on that, if charge sheet is already served and the investigation is concluded, there is no reason to deploy to another position unless dealing with financial related issues. Again, when instructions are given, one has to comply, especially if they seem reasonable. And I think we're repeating ourselves, Chair. As I said that, I would like to rephrase that, to read that just a reasonable instruction. And again, my paragraph, it ends by saying once more, one has to emphasize that my guidance was never directed anyone to stop the proceedings. So even that sentence, Chair, it talks about the procedure, its fairness, and how HR operates. But I will rewrite the issue of the legal instructions or lawful instruction.
I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Chair.
I will just refer you to the paragraph I wanted to refer to in the old statement is paragraph 31. Yes, old statement or first statement. It says exactly the same thing about complying with an instruction from the accounting officer. And it's on that basis there that I say you are quite consistent on this, and that therefore you made a conscious and deliberate decision to say that you must comply with what the accounting officer says. I will leave it at that.
Can I just say something, just one? Having looked at the charge sheet, and based on what you say here, that if the accounting officer gives reasonable instructions, they must be complied with. Do you accept that it would have been an unreasonable instruction to say don't proceed with the charges, especially bearing in mind how serious the 5 charges are?
Thank you, Chair. I accept it will be unreasonable. Hence, now, after there's a new accounting officer, the DC is commencing. It has commenced again.
But that creates the impression that you were not willing to act until there was a new accounting officer, that you were prepared to wait for 3 years. And if Dr. Mkhwanazi was still there, you would not have done anything because you were scared of it. That's the impression you are creating now. Because you are saying in November 2025, because there was a new accounting officer, we could proceed. But these things date back, the allegations against Mkhwanazi. They are February 2023 allegations. We are now in 2026. Just wanted to make that point. Thank you, Mr. Gxasheka.
Thank you. We've discussed the failure to proceed with the charges. I just want to clarify two earlier decisions that you were involved in. And I'm hoping to be brief. The first is the decision to uplift the suspension. That is a decision that is communicated in a letter from that is sent by you. I understood your evidence to be that that was done on instruction of Dr. Mkhwanazi. Is that correct? Did I understand it correctly?
I didn't hear the part of the letter that was sent by
That
me.
the withdrawal of the upliftment of the suspension
Yes.
was done on the instruction of Dr. Mkhwanazi.
Yes, remember I spoke to that evidently.
No, I just wanted to clarify that I hadn't confused more than one, but I don't need you to go further there. But what I do want to do, because there's a direct conflict between what your evidence is in that regard and Dr. Mkhwanazi's, and I need to put to you what Dr. Mkhwanazi says. So if one goes to page 31 of Supplementary Bundle 2, there is an exchange between Commissioner Baloyi and Dr. Mkhwanazi. Do you have page 31? Yes, it's Supplementary Bundle 1, not Supplementary Bundle 2. I apologize.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Do you have it?
Yes.
So if you see roundabouts page line 11, the line numbers are on the left-hand side. Commissioner Baloyi says there is also testimony that you were involved in the discussion or in the decision ultimately of Ms. Gxasheka to uplift his suspension and have him return to work. That is why the interest in my questions, at least, that you are copied on an HR matter that involves a junior employee. And there are these allegations that we've had that you had a direct involvement in how the disciplinary process against him eventually was aborted and scuppered. Her response there is, I want to state categorically that I did not participate in the suspension nor the upliftment of the suspension. I deny all the facts that they indicated that I participated. So she is saying she had nothing to do with the decision to uplift the suspension. And that passage should also be read with a passage on paragraph on page 22 of the same file. There at the top of the page, Advocate Selo says, your response to that question is reflected in paragraphs 85 and 86. You may summarize for the record what your response is. Dr. Mkhwanazi says, my response is that I did not get involved in this because Julius at that point was a junior official. I have no knowledge of this and therefore I cannot make further comments because it was done at the departmental level, at the level of Julius being a director in the department and being a level like a lower level that reports to the accounting office. So the redeployment and the withdrawal and so forth, I was not part of the process. So she is washing her hands of the suspension, of the decision to uplift the suspension and of the decision to direct that his redeployment should be back to his initial position. What is your response to that? I mean, there is a direct conflict between your evidence and her evidence. Are you standing by your evidence? Are you saying that has testified falsely to this commission?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think on the initial transcript, the first page you read, I can't
31.
get it.
31.
Yeah, page 29. There's where she talks about they. What I would like to put to the commission, then I'm going to answer. If anybody has been following up all our statements here, one way or the other, Chief of Police, Kolaneza and Advocate Kemi, if I'm not mistaken, there's some consistency of Dr. Mkhwanazi being involved. And I don't think all of us, we can just throw her name and say she was not involved. I also don't think all of us, we can just say we want to protect Julius Mkhwanazi. All of us, and put ourselves in this situation. And I've even said yesterday that we got involved when, in fact, Chief of Police and Kolani started bringing this thing to Dr. Mkhwanazi, where they met in some place, I can't remember now. And then she said also involved HOD, or I was acting at the time. In our statements, we further say that at some point, she had a meeting. I even said yesterday, sometimes it was telephonically. I'm saying it was in person. This is our evidence, most of us. And up to the end, Chair, to the end of the DC, the last evidence in all of our files, people that are involved here, when it was decided to stop the process, whereby in one of the evidences said herself, Advocate Kemi and Chief sat and have this discussion. It would be very strange that all of us were turning against Dr. Mkhwanazi. And I think on balance of probability...
Sorry, Mrs. Gxasheka, I don't need you to justify it. I just needed to put it to you. And I have seen all of the evidence, and you're right, it is consistent. But I just needed you to know clearly that she is saying something else, and I just needed you to confirm that notwithstanding what she says, you stand by what you say, and what is independently confirmed by several other people.
I stand by what I said. Instructions were given. Sorry, Chair. I think majority of the time were lawful, and we had to abide. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last one, Mr. Chaskalson, sorry, on the same transcript, the end of page 24, continuing up to 25, line 10, where Dr. Mkhwanazi is even more explicit because she says both the upliftment of the suspension and his redeployment were done on the advice of HOD Gxasheka. Do you see that, Mrs. Gxasheka? It starts from page 24, the very last line. She's being asked whether you were advising or you were instructing, and she says, as if she was instructing, because it was emails back and forth between the two HODs. If she was instructive in nature, I was actually going to intervene. But now it was between the two of them, and subsequent to the emails between the two of them, the chief himself uplifted the suspension and redeployed Mkhwanazi to how he was advised by the HOD. And then he says, that's you.
Chair, in my letter of suspension, I think the first paragraph, second sentence or the first sentence, it says, it came to my attention. And I said when I was referring to that yesterday that the attention I got to be told by the accounting officer. And another way of trying to support what I'm saying, I think majority of the time when I communicate, even with chief of police or anybody, I CC her. And the CCing, it shows that whatever we discussed and she said we must do, it's done. It's going to be difficult and it's a bit disappointing where we are in this situation because of the instructions of the accounting officer, and then she feels she must exonerate herself, and all of us must take the brunt. It's a very disappointing situation, Chair, but I'm sticking by what I said. The instructions were given by her, and all of us, we confirmed the people who brought statements here. Thank you so much, Chair.
Ms. Gxasheka, in your discussion with the chairperson, you were talking about complying with, and you comply if it's a reasonable instruction. If the city manager gave you, as you say, she gave you the instruction to uplift the suspension, why did you consider that to be a reasonable instruction to comply with?
Thank you, Chair. I read yesterday the DPCA 16.4, and I said it gives you either or. And because it at least allows, remember, it does say 3 months. In exceptional cases, you can extend. So she's covered in that 3 months. And in the debate you'll have with her, when I'm saying, but we can extend, she will say, no, it says 3 months, and therefore it must happen. And as I say, the mere fact even Mr. Ngeza drafted the letter and I signed it. There was a leeway for her, for us to continue with that process.
You agreed to extend the suspension, so you obviously would have applied your mind to the request to extend the extension, and you considered it appropriate and within the prescripts. You now get a call from the city manager, who is not an HR person. She's not an HR. You are the HR boss in Ekurhuleni. She's not that. She's your client when it comes to matters of HR, right? You're nodding, yes. You've considered and you found there is merit to extend. That's what you agree with, Mr. Ngeza. You were prepared to do it. The city manager who is a layperson on issues like this, gives you an instruction to not to extend, to actually uplift the extension. You do not even let it lapse. You write a letter, you say it's not being extended. You change your mind because you get an instruction. And my question is, and DPSA has nothing to do with it. She hasn't told us that she looked at the DPSA, as Mr. Chaskalson says. She says she relied on your advice. And I accept that you say that's not true. So we know from what she said in testimony that she didn't apply her mind to it at all. According to her, she depended on your advice. What did you consider to make her instruction to be reasonable, that you comply with it?
It was the first part of, as I say, our debate and discussion was on the first part of 16.4, that the disciplinary process must take place within 3 months. And at that time...
Did you, let me short circuit this. Did you advise the city manager not to extend? Because that's what she says.
No.
Right, so it can be both. You have to choose that, yes, I advise her that it's okay not to extend, or I was acting on instruction. She ordered me that we will not extend. It's one of the two.
Respectfully, Commissioner, I don't think there will be two possibilities in this situation. And I appeal for your indulgence to hear what I'm getting at. I'm saying let's extend and conclude so that EMPD can conclude the matter. She says, and I was consistent yesterday, she says, why did HR not complete this process? You've concluded the investigation. You are in it is at an advanced stage. That's what my statement says. Therefore, there is no need for you, HR, to extend the suspension. Mr. Mkhwanazi must come back to work. This is where things went.
Which then makes me ask, and again, it's about, I'm going to use the word competence because I can't think of another word now. It then raises questions about your own competence then, that you initially agreed. So you would have considered those things that you now say came from the city manager. You would have considered them, otherwise you're incompetent. that you didn't think, oh, they have conducted the investigation, they are close to finishing, it's actually not necessary to keep the the suspension in place. If you did not consider those factors, then it says something about your competence. If you considered them, and then the city manager simply repeats them to you, you still have to say, why did you consider her to be superior to you in terms of reasoning or factors to be taken into account? And so, yeah, I'm back to, it's one or the other. You considered them and you satisfied yourself that this can be extended. That's why you agreed with Ms. Dengniza. Something else happens, and it cannot be the city manager repeated the same things to you. Something else happened that made you change your mind because you already had a view. She can't repeat the same thing and then you say, yeah, because it comes from the city manager, it's reasonable.
Chair, through you, I'm saying there are discussions that are taking place. Initially, I satisfied myself. We do it. We do extend. Sometimes we don't extend. That's how it is, based on how far the investigation is.
So there was no instruction from the city manager. You had a debate and she persuaded you differently. There was no instruction from her.
I think you're battling to hear me. That's why I'm really trying to...
I'm not battling to hear you. I understand you. I hear and I understand you perfectly. You either had an instruction from the city manager or you did not. You now speak about a debate. And I say, well, you either acted because of an instruction, which you say, I must comply with, or you debated. You had formed a view, you debated, and she persuaded you differently. In the latter case, it's not an instruction. If the latter happened, then there was no instruction from the city manager, then she's right when she says, I never gave an instruction. Or she did give you an instruction. And it takes us back to, well, why did you think this was a reasonable instruction? But forget that second part of why do you think it's a reasonable instruction is I'm saying to you, you either were persuaded different, and there's nothing wrong. If you had started with that, without saying she instructed me, if you had started with, yes, I formed a view, but when I had a conversation with the city manager, I actually saw things differently. I think that would have been the end of this debate with you. But that's not what you say. You say you got an instruction and she's not telling the truth when she said she never instructed you.
Thank you, Chair. I've said from yesterday, I'm really trying to be slow because I think maybe yesterday I was rushing and I was not heard properly. You will debate issues with her. She will give you an instruction. I think that's the part I need you to hear. She will give you an instruction. And if I was not competent, I'll just say, yes, boss, and then move with it. I will advise against the instruction where I'm uncomfortable. We'll engage. And I've said most of the time, you find out that legally she's equipped. After the debate, she will still say, I am saying to you, do this and that. And I wanted to talk to the competence issue because now you've raised it. And hence yesterday, I've said, before and after the instruction has been given, I engage on issues because you cannot be at my level where you are told, do this, you say yes, but I've been very consistent on that. Instructions are given, I debate, and I'm still told you're gonna go and do it this way. And I wasn't trying to be disrespectful when I was saying you can test her character to the highest level. She will allow you to debate, but after debate, what she has said must happen, must happen. I don't think, I'm finishing, between me, Chief of Police, Xolani Advocate Kemi, we don't even know, I don't know Mkhwanazi. I started knowing Mkhwanazi during this case. I don't think all of us would want to shield Mkhwanazi, and I don't think we had any reason to shield Mkhwanazi.
The suggestion is you were shielding him to please the city manager. That's the evidence. That's a complaint against you. It is, you may not have known him. Maybe you met him for the first time at the city of Ekurhuleni. That's not even the conversation. The complaint against you is you did not, firstly, you uplifted his suspension because you were pleasing the city manager and you were rewarded for it financially. 2, you did not do anything. You frustrated or contributed to the frustration of the disciplinary process against him because you were doing the city manager's bidding and you were rewarded for it. That's the accusation against you. So it doesn't help for you to say, I didn't know him. We're looking at your conduct where there's a clear case of serious misconduct, serious, which in another forum should see Commissioner Mkhwanazi go to jail. You become aware of it. You see the charge sheet, it's serious matter. You say, well, they made an agreement, I wasn't involved with it. You say I was instructed. You say I did a forensic investigation, which has nothing to do with the charges. And the explanation from your colleagues who have testified is your role in all of this is explained by you were working with a city manager who was protecting, they say. She was protecting Mkhwanazi. You helped her and you got rewarded for it. Those are the allegations against you.
Let me give you an example that is sensitive. Beyond this, I won't say much. Today, in 2023, I think that was the first month we suspended Mkhwanazi. My mom passed on. The following weekend, she was buried on Sunday. Monday, I was called to come back to work. And I said on Monday, since in Tlambabeki, because we bury on Sunday, I was told if I'm not back at work the following day, I'll be dealt with. That was around 4 o'clock on Monday, that conversation. I had to drive from Queenstown to here, to Joburg. Didn't sleep, I'm a firstborn at home. Never slept. When we're driving, my husband had to stop me while we were sleeping at Bloemfontein. Because you are tired and the car keeps on getting out of the road. The following day, I was in the office doing interviews. I've never mourned my mom. On top of that, 5 days were deducted from my salary for burying my mother. So in that period, between February and up to the end of 2023, why would I be loyal to such a person? So I really want this misperception that says some of us were loyal to Dr. Mashazi to be seen differently. It wasn't about loyalty. It was about how we advise and if our advice is taken or not taken. And I thought yesterday I was assisting myself and the commission when I said there's an executive authority, Ekurhuleni. And ultimately, she's fully accountable in everything that is done. And I'm refuting anything that says, in that year, I was loyal to Dr. Mashazi, whereas I went through what I went through. What I'm saying to the commission, we debated on matters. We debated on instructions. Ultimately, she will hear you. Hence, I'm saying, get somebody who's not involved, leave all of us. Bring another witness who's going to tell you that after debate, she will still have her word done. I really, hence I said yesterday, even on the issue of our increases, she came to me and said, why is Meral supporting you? You know, she pushed it because maybe she had no choice. We did a motivation. It went to the remuneration committee. It went to Meral. That is the loyalty issue. Maybe we're loyal to the authority, the position, not the individual. And lastly, Commission, I want to leave here with a clear tone. Instructions are given. I advise. After advising, if there's an ultimate instruction given, you have to comply. And it's 4 of us. against her or against Julius Mkhwanazi. You know, you have to understand the complexity, and the only way you're going to be assisted is to bring somebody else who is not involved in this matter to deal with it. Thank you, Chair.
I think the issue, the Chair earlier on raised it as someone at your level of seniority, that you're executing instructions like this. And hence my question earlier to you, what is reasonable about the instruction? Because you say, I comply with reasonable instructions. Now, if an instruction is unreasonable and you still comply with it, it makes us ask questions about you and why you would do that which you did. So that's the context or the prism within which you should look at this, that you are employed, you're a Section 56 employee, as I understand. The decision to employ you is not the city manager's decision, as I understand these things. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The decision to fire you is not the city manager's decision. Ultimately, she can lay a complaint against you and you get disciplined, but it's not her decision. And then you are making these decisions, you become party to decisions that do not make sense, because it does not make sense that you ordered the upliftment, and you ordered it because it's in your letter, it's in your handwriting, in the same way that you keep saying, well, Chief Mapia wrote the letter, and therefore it's him. It applies to you too. You wrote the letter uplifting the suspension. It's not good enough, is the point at least that I'm making. For someone of your seniority, it's not good enough to say, I acted on instruction. It's not. You're supposed to bring to bear your professional guidance on matters like this. Nowhere does it record you disagreed with the city manager. Nowhere. Nowhere does it say, you don't give us an email, you don't give us a memorandum, you don't give us a WhatsApp message that says, I disagreed and I told her that I disagree with this, but I implemented because she instructed me and said she'll deal with me if I don't. What we have is her saying she acted on your advice. That's what's on record. With you, we do have a footprint of your letter uplifting the suspension. So it's you who uplifted the suspension. And you must take accountability. And in the same way that you say Chief Mapia should take accountability for his letter, even if he says I was pressured, he must take accountability because he wrote that letter and signed it off, stopping the disciplinary process. Same applies to you. Take accountability for, yes, I uplifted the suspension. Yes, I was wrong to follow that instruction because it was an unreasonable instruction. Not try and justify it as we debated. And then she then at the end of it said, I'm instructing you. Say she instructed me and I should not have followed that instruction. That's all we are asking you to do, is accept it's a wrong instruction to uplift the suspension where the city manager overrides your position. It was a wrong instruction for her to give you. And you should not have followed it. You did follow it, but do at least own up to it and say, I should not have followed that instruction.
Chair, through you, I think it becomes very difficult when we have to concede on issues when you contemplate them differently. And while you put your statement here, I've been very consistent that instructions are given, I do advise, and I do debate on issues. Ultimately, if it's reasonable, and the reason I'm saying it's reasonable to me, extending for 6 months, it's the right thing to do. But where the problem is with that clause, it says 3 months, within 3 months, finish the disciplinary process. And if you don't finish it within 3 months, the employee must come back to work. In exceptional circumstances, you can extend it. When I signed the first one, I agreed to sign the extension. It was based that at least you can stay up to 6 months. And there are circumstances where we say employees come back because the process has advanced. And I've said yesterday, I want the context. I will accede where I have to accede, but I really wanted the context to be given. A chairperson, in the sense that 3 months was concluded. And HR did, in our space, have irregularities. I'm taking that Dr. Mkhwanazi is wrong. If you want me to say I could have done things better, I will do so. But we also played a critical role on that process not being concluded. And I'm not sure then when I was testifying here if all this will be integrated and before decisions are made. But I'm appealing to the Commission that when utterances are made, can we at least also talk to the context of how the matters have been discussed? You know, the process was frustrated. I get that. And I'm saying we could have done things better. And it's really a pity, I'm going to repeat before I concede to this, that Dr. Mkhwanazi wouldn't know all these things. As we decide to wake up and protect Julius, what for? What for? And I wouldn't want to get to a situation where my competencies are being challenged without me trying to put a context on my side, Chairperson. I wouldn't want to. Hence, I keep on saying, whereas instructions are made, are discussed, a person is advised, but ultimately, if you are a decision maker, you can even override what I'm saying and write your own letter, or I assist and write the letter. Xolani drafted the upliftment and I signed it, and 3 months have passed. Xolani decided when the 3 months have passed to still think, do I discipline or I don't discipline? Those things must be taken into context.
Thank you.
I'm appealing with you.
Thank you, Mr. Gxasheka.
Can I just ask one follow-up question? I mean, you know the prescripts that apply in the municipality. You've told us you spent many years in the city of Joburg. You are now in the city of Ekurhuleni. Is it lawful and appropriate for a city manager to involve herself in issues of suspension and discipline of an employee at a level where Julius Mkhwanazi was in May and June 2023? Is it appropriate and lawful for her to be involved?
Chair, according to the delegations, as much as, remember, ultimately delegations are hers, accountabilities, she's the ultimate authority here. There's sub-delegations into these matters, but it doesn't mean because there's sub-delegations, she cannot still assume her delegations. I've said earlier on in my statement, this matter is the chief of police and Xolani who brought her into it. If in the beginning, they wouldn't have said, okay, this one has got proximity to the accounting officer, let's go and consult her. That's where this whole thing started. And then she started following it up. Remember, if you read their statement between Henny and Xolani, while Xolani has not yet disciplined, is still contemplating, they might go to jail, they might not go to jail, let me not discipline. Henny sensitized them that the time is moving. And by the 23rd, when he sensitized them, the 24th is the last day of the 90 days. You know, what do they do there? If you read their statement, I want to finish, Chair. I really want to, Chair. I'm going to come to it.
Is it appropriate? Yes, it is appropriate. No, it's not appropriate. I don't want to hear about what Kemi did or what Ngiza did. I just ask a simple question. Is it appropriate for a municipal manager to involve themselves at that level with the suspensions of employees at that level? If it is appropriate, you can say, yes, it is. If it's not appropriate, you can say, no, it's not. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Assume we've read these laws, assume we've read the records, assume we've heard your statement, assume we've heard what you said yesterday. All I want for now is it appropriate, yes, or it's not appropriate?
Ideally, Chair, a city manager should have said when they said, we want to discipline Mkhwanazi and say, it's your role, deal with it, don't involve me. Therefore, it doesn't look good. It's not appropriate because those are lower level. And the contradiction, remember, when we're discussing recruitment, Chief complaining, he says to Chief, below this level, don't be involved because you are dealing with a higher level. It's the same as her.
Exactly.
But all I'm saying, Chair, I know even my legal team, I'm sure they're going to reprimand me. I'm not trying to over-explain myself as if I'm hiding something, but I'm trying to refute the statements and the allegations Dr. Mkhwanazi is doing against all of us, that she should not have involved herself from the beginning.
See, now you've answered me. You didn't have to take that long route. Thank you.
Let's adjourn and come back at 22. May we see council outside, please?